Adam and Eve. In the Garden of Eden, Adam and Eve had everything they needed, walking in perfect fellowship with God. But when the serpent deceived Eve, she ate from the forbidden tree and gave some to Adam, who also ate. Their disobedience introduced sin, shame, and death into the world, breaking humanity's perfect relationship with God.
Noah, after the flood, planted a vineyard, but he drank too much wine, became drunk, and lay uncovered in his tent. His son Ham dishonored him by exposing his father's shame, while Shem and Japheth respectfully covered him.
Abraham. When famine struck, Abraham went to Egypt and, fearing for his life, told Sarah to say she was his sister instead of his wife. Pharaoh took her into his household until God intervened. Years later, he repeated the same deception with King Abimelech in Gerar. Still struggling to trust God's promise of a son, Abraham listened to Sarah and fathered Ishmael through her servant Hagar.
Sarah. When God promised Abraham a son, Sarah laughed in disbelief, thinking it's impossible in her old age. Doubting God's word, she urged Abraham to have a child with her servant Hagar, which birthed jealousy, conflict, and division in their household.
Lot. Though Abraham's nephew, Lot, chose to settle in the wicked city of Sodom, prioritizing prosperity over righteousness, after being rescued by angels during Sodom's destruction, he later got drunk, and his daughters, believing no men were left, deceived him into fathering children with them.
Isaac. Like his father Abraham, Isaac lied about his wife Rebekah, claiming she was his sister out of fear for his own life. His deceit was exposed by King Abimelech, bringing shame instead of blessing.
Rebekah. Rebekah took matters into her own hands, scheming with Jacob to trick the aging Isaac. She disguised Jacob so he could steal Esau's blessing, manipulating her husband and dividing her sons. Though her plan worked, the result was a broken family. Jacob fled for his life, and Rebekah never saw him again.
Jacob deceived his father Isaac and stole his brother Esau's blessing through lies and trickery. Later, his life was marked by manipulation and favoritism, favoring Rachel over Leah and Joseph over his other sons.
Moses. In his younger years, Moses killed an Egyptian in anger while trying to defend an Israelite. Later, in frustration with the people, he struck the rock instead of speaking to it as God commanded. His disobedience cost him the privilege of entering the Promised Land, despite his lifelong leadership.
Aaron. While Moses was on Mount Sinai, Aaron gave in to the people's demands. He collected their gold and fashioned a golden calf, leading Israel into idolatry. When confronted, he tried to excuse himself, claiming the calf just came out of the fire.
Miriam. Alongside Aaron, she spoke against Moses, questioning his unique role as God's chosen leader. Because of her rebellion, God struck her with leprosy, and she was shut out of the camp for 7 days. Samson. Though chosen as a Nazirite to deliver Israel, Samson repeatedly broke his vows, touching the dead, eating unclean food, and visiting prostitutes. His weakness for women, especially Delilah, led him to reveal the secret of his strength.
Gideon. After God gave him victory over Midian, Gideon made a golden ephod, a kind of priestly garment. The people started worshiping it, and it became an idol. Gideon also often showed fear and doubt, even though God had already promised to be with him.
Eli. He was a priest and judge in Israel, but his sons were corrupt, and they disrespected God's sacrifices and lived wickedly. Eli knew about it, but didn't stop them. Because of this, God's judgment came on Eli's family.
Samuel. Samuel was a faithful prophet and leader, but when he grew old, he made his sons judges over Israel. His sons were greedy. They took bribes and twisted justice. Because of this, the people asked for a king instead.
Saul. Saul was the first king of Israel, and in one battle he got scared when his army was scattering, so he disobeyed God and offered a sacrifice himself instead of waiting for Samuel the prophet to do it. Later, God told him to completely destroy the Amalekites, but Saul only half obeyed. He kept their king alive and saved the best animals. David. David was a great king, but he also failed badly. He committed adultery with Bathsheba, then arranged for her husband, Uriah, to be killed in battle. Later, he sinned again by taking a census of Israel to show his power instead of trusting God.
Solomon. Solomon was the wisest king, but his heart turned away from God. He married many foreign wives who worshipped idols. Instead of staying faithful, he built altars to their gods. Because of this, God said the kingdom would be torn away from his family.
Elijah. After God gave him victory over the prophets of Baal on Mount Carmel, Elijah became afraid when Queen Jezebel threatened him. He ran away into the wilderness, tired and discouraged. Feeling hopeless, he even prayed that he might die.
Jonah. God told Jonah to go preach to Nineveh, but he ran the other way and boarded a ship. A storm came and he was swallowed by a big fish until he agreed to obey. He finally preached, and the people of Nineveh repented. Instead of rejoicing, Jonah grew angry that God forgave them and wished for judgment.
Peter. On the night Jesus was arrested, Peter denied knowing him 3 times out of fear. Later, even after becoming a leader in the church, he acted hypocritically by avoiding Gentile believers when other Jews were around.
Thomas. After Jesus rose from the dead, Thomas refused to believe unless he saw and touched the wounds himself. When Jesus appeared and showed him the scars, Thomas finally believed and confessed, "My Lord and my God."
James and John, sons of thunder. When a Samaritan village refused to welcome Jesus, James and John got angry. They asked Jesus if they should call down fire from heaven to destroy it. But Jesus rebuked them, teaching that his mission was to save lives, not destroy them.
Paul, formerly Saul. Saul hated Christians and did everything he could to destroy the church. He approved when Stephen was stoned to death and arrested believers, throwing them into prison. But later, Jesus stopped him on the road to Damascus, and by God's mercy, the persecutor became a preacher of the gospel.
Barnabas. Barnabas and Paul, once close partners in mission, had a sharp argument over John Mark. The disagreement became so strong that they split apart. Barnabas took Mark, and Paul chose Silas. Even faithful leaders can clash, but God still used both teams to spread the gospel.